You're a health-conscious senior and you're wondering what you can do to improve your nutrition. You know how important protein is, especially for seniors, but should you use protein powder to help you with your protein requirements? That's exactly what you'll learn in this video. First, let's talk about the benefits and functions of protein. The most obvious one that people associate with protein is muscle. You eat more protein, you grow more muscle. And yes, that's a very good thing, especially for seniors, because it helps you do your activities of daily living better. Not necessarily that you want to step on stage and be a bodybuilder, but if you want to be able to open jars, carry groceries, lift furniture, stuff like that, move furniture, protein is very, very helpful for that. So yes, it does the obvious, which is muscle, but there are a few very underrated functions of protein. For example, bones. People with osteoporosis, the first thing they think about is calcium. The second thing that they think about is vitamin D. If they think of a third thing, it's vitamin K. Unfortunately, none of those three things actually help you with fracture risk. I talk about that in other videos. The single most important nutrient for bone strength, not just bone density, but bone strength, is protein. Protein is more impactful than calcium, vitamin D, or vitamin K. Also, it's very important for the immune system. It's also important for wound healing. In other words, if you find that you often get bruised or bones hurt for longer than they should, that's something that protein helps with. And another factor is your blood sugar levels. Especially if you're pre-diabetic, diabetic, or you have metabolic syndrome, protein helps with controlling that. People who take protein powder with no other changes, they can improve their A1C by about 1.0 to 1.5% if they're a type 2 diabetic. So there are many, many reasons to take protein besides its benefits on muscle, which brings up the question of how much protein do you need as a senior? Well, here's the great irony. The protein requirements of seniors are higher than people under 60. However, their appetite for it, their desire for protein is actually lower. And so why do their requirements for protein rise? Because they can't absorb it as well, because the digestive system is not working as efficiently. Because of that, they need more to have the same effect. How much do they need? Protein requirements depend on three different factors. One, in no particular order, your body weight. Two, your activity levels. Are you sedentary? Are you doing cardio only? Are you doing strength training only? Or are you doing cardio and strength training? And three, your age. Are you over 60 or under 60? I'm going to assume that you're strength training and you're over 60. People like you need about 2.0 to 2.2 grams per kilogram per day. Now, if you want to know specifically for you and you want to plug your own variables, I have a protein calculator in the link in the description below, which you can use to plug in your own details, and it'll tell you how much protein specifically you need. Protein requirements are based on your ideal body weight. So if you're overweight or obese, think about what's your ideal weight and use protein calculations based on that. So that's how much protein you need. So this brings us to our original question. Do you need protein powder? Well, here's the thing. The body does not care where it gets that protein from, whether it's supplements or food. So if you're getting adequate amounts of protein from food alone, you don't need protein powder. But again, because the requirements are high and the appetite for it is low, lots of seniors find that it's very, very helpful to bridge the gap using protein powders because they just can't eat enough chicken or turkey or tilapia or cod. If you choose to take a protein powder, you always have to ask yourself, do protein powders work? And the answer is a definitive yes. In one study, researchers recruited men between the ages of 70 and 81. For 10 weeks, they were divided into groups. Group 1 consumed 0.8 grams per kilogram per day of protein. Group number 2 consumed 1.6 grams per kilogram per day. Okay? Neither group did any strength training whatsoever, so any increases in muscle mass could be attributed to just the protein alone. At the end of the study, group number 1, who only got 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram per day, they actually lost 1.2 pounds of lean tissue. Now, I don't just say muscle because lean tissue is everything that's not fat. Maybe a little bit of bone, maybe a little bit of other tissues, and yes, maybe a little bit of muscle. Group number 2 actually gained 3.3 pounds of lean tissue. Group number 1 lost 6% of their quad strength. Group number 2 gained 5%. They added 5% to their quad strength. Again, the only difference was just the protein intake. Everything else was kept the same. Carbs, fats, exercise, non-existent in both groups, and yet despite that, protein alone made such a significant difference. In one study of postmenopausal women, they were divided into 4 groups based on their protein intake. Group number 1 consumed less than 16% of their calories as protein. Group number 2, 16 to 18%. Group 3, 18 to 20%. And group number 4 consumed over 20% of their calories as protein. And here's what happened. Over the duration of this study, group number 1 had 16 hip fractures. Group number 2 also had 16 hip fractures. Group 3 had 7 hip fractures. And group 4, who got over 20% of the calories as protein, only had 5 hip fractures. So a very small difference in protein, less than 16% to over 20%, and yet the difference in fracture risk is huge. The implications for both women and men who have osteoporosis or osteopenia are simply eat more protein. So if I've convinced you that protein might be beneficial for you, how do you choose the right protein powder? Here are some criteria. The gold standard is whey protein. There are different kinds of protein, whether that's pea or rice or casein or hemp, etc. They're all better than no protein. But if you're going to get the best, get whey protein. And if you're wondering, I have lactose intolerance, can I still drink whey protein? The answer is, for most people with lactose intolerance, yes. However, some people with lactose intolerance cannot handle the even minute amounts of lactose found in whey protein. They should try and use other protein powders, one of the others I mentioned, but not casein, pea, rice, hemp, etc. One criterion people often ask about is, what about the sweetener? I mean, it has to be sweet, doesn't it? And yes, it's a matter of preference. There are unflavored protein powders, but if you like a sweet protein powder, does it matter if it's sweetened with something natural, like stevia, or synthetic, like aspartame or sucralose or something like that? The answer is no. By and large, the drawbacks, the harms of aspartame, sucralose, etc. have been way overblown, based on largely mice studies. First of all, mice aren't people. Second of all, the amounts of aspartame, sucralose, and artificial sweeteners they give to mice would be equivalent to a person having like 30 pounds of that. There's just no comparison. By and large, for the vast majority of people, even artificial sweeteners are inert. Not beneficial, but not harmful either. If you want to do it with something natural or artificial, it makes no difference whatsoever, so that should not be a criterion. One common question that comes up is, when should you take protein powder? And a common myth that goes along with that is that you should take it either right before bed or right after a workout. This myth originates from people who are exercising fasted and they're doing it twice per day. If you're not exercising twice per day, it makes zero difference when you take a protein powder. The most important thing is to just take it. It doesn't matter when, doesn't matter with what. You can do it alone, you can do it with meals, just take it. Now, if you are exercising twice per day and you're doing one of your first workouts fasted, then it makes a difference. But for 99.99% of people watching this video, it makes no difference whatsoever. Finally, should everybody be using protein powder, or are there people for whom it's harmful? There is one small segment of people who might need to speak to a doctor or dietitian about protein powders, and that is people with pre-existing kidney problems. Now, if your kidneys are healthy to begin with, protein powder won't damage them. But if your kidneys are compromised, protein may put extra stress on them that may not be necessary. If you like this information, I have a special newsletter for people just like you, for people over 50. If you click on the link in the description below, that'll give you the option to subscribe to that newsletter for free, and you always have the option of unsubscribing. Thank you and goodbye.